Hi, everyone. It's Dr. Arlene Diamco, the MultiDimensional MD. Thank you so much for watching. This is episode 206 on leaky gut. And for those of you that don't know, my mission is to help bring the intangible or intuitive aspects of health back to medicine in practical and tangible ways so that we can access deeper healing and experience more peace, love, and joy in our everyday lives. So I am recently back from Vancouver to teach another amazing course for the osteopaths and osteopathic physicians to sense and perceive the emotional body and incorporate that into their treatments. And we've had so many amazing practitioners come through, and we're now starting to hear all of the things that they're able to use with the concepts taught in our course. And so it's been so fulfilling. And I'm just filled with so much joy that this information and these concepts and this art is teachable, meaning we can pass it on. So anyway, while I was in Vancouver, this city is so rich in delicious food. Many of it is very high quality. It is prepared with time and care, and just so much access to amazing food. And so it got me thinking about, what if people were able to eat like this all the time? Because there were certain foods that I ate there that I could handle more if they were eaten in the proper proportions, proper ratios, prepared in a certain way with certain herbs and spices that I could digest much better than if I ate them elsewhere. And so I started thinking about the health of our gut, gut inflammation, and in particular, leaky gut. So, leaky gut is this increased intestinal permeability. And the lining of the gut is called the epithelium, but it actually has many layers to it. So the whole gut barrier has many layers. So the epithelial cells have this dual function to absorb nutrients, water, ions, and keep toxins out, and the less friendly bacteria. So the tight junctions are these gates between the cells. So you have epithelial cells. So here are my fist, the epithelial cells, and the tight junctions are in between that. So these are the gates that loosen and tighten as needed. So when injured, the tight junctions become too loose, letting too many things pass through its gate. Hence, you get leaky gut or increased intestinal permeability. And I spent some time with a friend who's a naturopath also, and she had done some dark field microscopy on live blood spots, which we can't really do in this country, but can be done in other countries. But it's really interesting because if you could take a speck of live blood, you can actually see that if someone has a leaky gut or signs of it, a possibility, because you can see like there's this speckled nature. It's like debris that was let through from the gut and is going through the circulation. So you can see debris, which is amazing because that's what's happening with leaky gut, that we are getting debris into our systems. So leaky gut can be responsible for or involved in many different gut issues, but also systemic issues. So typical signs and symptoms of leaky gut would include any gut inflammation, like inflammatory bowel disease, and just nervous digestion too, diarrhea, constipation, bloating, or if you have signs of gluten sensitivity or other food sensitivities. There can be other issues as well, including issues of obesity, maintaining more balanced weight, liver problems such as non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, diabetes, both types 1 and 2, chronic heart disease. So our guts are not meant to be in isolation. And so any issues of the gut can and will affect the whole overall. And that's the tensegrity of our beings. Anything that affects the part will affect the whole, whether it's in an obvious way or not. And so there was this great review article from researchers at the Louisiana State University and North Carolina State University, led by Alaman. And this was published in 2023 in the journal Molecules. And so there they had a great picture, and I'll show it to you. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see it. But there are 4 layers to this gut barrier. And let me get that up on here for you. So here you can see four layers of this gut barrier, and the top part, or the part that's next to the lumen. So if you eat your food, this is the first part that it's going to encounter, is this mucosal layer. And the mucosal layer is actually in two parts. So if you're looking at the image, it's that first part is the green part, the first part of the mucosal layer, and that has all this microbiota in it, this gut flora. And then the next mucosal layer is more of a chemical layer. So it has immunoglobulin A, which is part of your immune system, and all these digestive enzymes. And then after that, you have this epithelial layer that is made of cells and has tight junctions. And then past the epithelial layer is another immune layer. So let's go through that in a little bit more detail. So this mucosal layer is again, formed by two layers of mucosa. So the first one has the gut microbiota on that lumen side. And the gut microbiome consists of over 100 trillion bacteria, mostly anaerobic. And that gut flora weighs about 3.3 pounds. So over 3 pounds. And most people, that is amazing. This is a lot of implications in osteopathic treatment, and we'll be talking about that in the next course for osteopaths. But just to consider that over 3 pounds of gut microflora. So you want to keep this garden within you nice, beautiful, balanced. These gut bacteria interact with the immune system. They help to break down dietary fiber. They break down sulfur compounds and polysaccharides. And the breakdown in the polysaccharides produces short chain fatty acids, which comprise 10% or more of the caloric intake. That's a lot of energy. So it also produces some B vitamins, specifically B1, 9, and 12, and vitamin K. So important for your blood, also important for your bones with vitamin K2. The gut microbiota also produce ammonia and other toxic chemicals or toxic metabolites with the digestion of protein, especially with overconsumption of protein and or altered gut flora, which is called dysbiosis or dysfunctional gut flora. So if your gut flora is not balance is off, then you get that gut biosis, and you're going to have more dysfunction. They won't be able to produce those vitamins the way they usually can, and may produce more toxic compounds. Now, the second layer of the mucosa, which is near the epithelial cells, has immunoglobulin A, which is that first antibody barrier to the outside world. So it's when you're eating food, it's like on the inside, it's like our barrier of skin, but on the inside in this mucosal layer. So you have antibodies there. And you also have digestive enzymes, the proteases, which digest protein, lipase, which breaks down fats, amylases, which breaks down carbs, nucleases, which breaks down DNA and RNA in the foods. Now, the next layer, so layer three, two were in the mucosa. Third layer is this epithelial layer with the tight junctions. This is what I do when I say tight junctions, because the cells are here and if they get pulled apart too much, things leak in, leaky gut. Now, the epithelial layer amazingly renews every 3 to 5 days. So our guts take a lot of energy. They are working really hard. The gut epithelium forms these villi and crypts. So kind of these mountainous looking things, which long, narrow mountains, which are the villi, and in between the valleys are the crypts. So the crypts contain these pluripotent stem cells that migrate and differentiate into different kinds of other epithelial cells and gut cells. And this is part of why they need to renew. They're working so hard. They're exposed to so many elements, and for our guts to maintain their optimal function, then we need them to be able to renew. These gut epithelial cells can also gobble up or phagocytize, which means to gobble up bacteria and neutralize toxins. So we have these multi-layer gut barrier or all of them have like some sort of immune function. Now, that inner layer of immune function is has T cells, B cells, macrophages, dendritic cells, plasma cells, and mast cells. So to review, you got the four layers to your mucosal. The first mucosal layer has your gut microbiota. The second mucosal layer has digestive enzymes and immunoglobulin A. The third layer is your epithelial cells with the tight junctions that hopefully are the gates are working properly. And then the fourth layer is another layer of immune cells of all different kinds. And this is what every time you eat, this is what your gut is facing and has to process everything with. So, what else about the causes of the leaky gut? Dietary imbalances. So, excess sugar, carbs, or artificial food additives can all contribute to leaky gut. Again, your gut is working very hard to digest all of these things. And if you make it overwork, then you can create some both gut dysbiosis, so altered gut flora, and altered gut function. Glyphosate, so Roundup, which is on a pesticide on many different foods. It's actually used as a crop desiccant for wheat, which is probably why many people have problems with wheat nowadays more than there used to be, because they spray it on wheat crops, unless they're labeled organic, to dry up the crops and make it easier to cut. And then when you ingest that glyphosate, it can disrupt that gut barrier. Alcohol, so excess consumption of alcohol. And it doesn't take that much. So it depends on your size, it depends on your gender, it depends on the frequency, and it may not take that much to for alcohol to contribute to any gut dysbiosis and gut barrier imbalance. In France, they sip on their alcohol with lunch, and versus like in the United States, often people have even like a glass of wine before they go to bed. But when you sleep, this is supposed to be a time of a lot of detoxification. So, not a time to be drinking a lot of alcohol right before bedtime. We can do it more like they do in Europe and perhaps balance it a little bit. Antibiotics, which are meant to counter bacteria and that are considered more toxic. However, they can have the effects of killing off some of our friendly gut flora and create gut dysbiosis, which then interferes with the gut barrier. Other medications, including nonsteroidal anti-inflammatories, ibuprofen, Tylenol, infections that especially gut infections, but infections of other types too, because there's some sort of stress in the body. Sometimes people will get stuck in this loop. So they've had some sort of illness and then their guts are needing to rebalance afterwards. And so that's not something uncommon that I see, but we can address that kind of stress to the body and the physical, mental, emotional stress of any kind. So even if you've had a motor vehicle accident or a concussion, that can create this stress in the body. It activates that fight or flight response. And the autonomic nervous system is meant to be balanced so that you can digest well. You need your parasympathetic response. So if there's imbalance in the autonomic nervous system, then that stress can alter the way the gut barrier is functioning, including those tight junctions. Food allergies and sensitivity. So again, the new wheat is different than the old world wheat, not just because of the Roundup and the glyphosate, but because of the way that the wheat is produced and hybridized. Old world wheat like einkorn, millet, other old grains are somewhat friendlier for our bodies than the newer, like fluffy wheat that we're used to seeing pictures of. So if we're trying to test for leaky gut, there's no exact test. There are some tests such as zonulin testing, which you measure in the blood and to see if the zonulin is passing through. It's not the most accurate. There's also lactose mannitol testing, but similarly, it's not yet standardized. The ratios aren't standardized. So it's hard to necessarily put those into clinical use, although they may be using some of these tests for research use. Food allergy and sensitivity testing can be another way to look at how your your gut is functioning. Sometimes I'll see that if there are a lot of food sensitivities, then to me that is indicative of leaky gut, because you're not meant to be reacting in that way, fighting off foods. Foods are meant to be more benign, unless there's a particular one that, because of your genetics, that you can't handle. But if you're reacting to pretty much all foods, that to me is leaky gut. Whole food particles are coming in, and then your body is producing antibodies to them. So we can also look at some gut stool tests, but again, these are not necessarily 100% indicative of leaky gut, but that can give us some signs and symptoms. There's also the blood spotting, but we can't use that in this country. It's not considered FDA approved. But there are maybe you can see signs of leaky gut, but we can't use it to diagnose or treat. So if we're going to go into treatment, there are so many different ways. We can go through food, vitamins, other nutrients, herbs, mushrooms, and also a mind-body approach. So when I talk about things, I like to take a more expanded, multi-dimensional approach. So as I mentioned, these different ways to address the gut, help support the health of the gut, don't think of them in isolation, because we have to expand the picture and consider what is going on with the overall being of you, and address anything that is contributing to imbalance. Because really, these are the symptoms telling you how to return to balance, and it's about listening to these messages. More on that in just a moment. So, if we consider the foods to help leaky gut, there is some evidence that a low FODMAP diet can help to address some leaky gut symptoms, and these are these oligosaccharides, which are more difficult for us to digest, but it's not the only kind of diet that can help. So low FODMAP diet would be lower in more difficult protein sources such as beans, certain meats, milk, ice cream. Those things are more difficult to digest. Fruits that are more difficult to break down: apples, mangoes, um, even some pears, plums, and some vegetables that people have a hard time with, which can include cauliflower, asparagus, even garlic and onion. And then foods that are more low on the FODMAP list include many different kinds of vegetables. So carrots, cucumber, green beans, lettuce. Fruits include mandarins, oranges, pineapple, strawberries. Dairies that are more fermented products, protein sources. So we're avoiding beans basically. And for both, it's really avoiding like excess sugars and certain kinds of nuts. You can take a look at some of these FODMAP lists, and there are many that you can find on the internet that will show you diets that are that can help guide you on that FODMAP diet. I like to look more at a modified alkaline diet, because if you look at the alkaline diet ratios, then we are avoiding these foods that we're avoiding excess amounts of foods that are difficult to digest. So an alkaline diet is meant to be more 80% alkaline forming to the body versus 20% acidic forming to the body. And in that, the 80% alkaline are going to be your leafy greens, and more leafy than pods, and 3-to-1 leafy to the tuberous or underground veggies. And then in the 20% is going to be the meats, beans, and dairy products, except for fermented. So there are some similarities between a low FODMAP and an alkaline diet in terms of ratios. The alkaline diet isn't going to say to completely avoid all of the high FODMAP foods, but if you look at the ratios, then you'll be avoiding many of these high FODMAP foods. Now, depending on how difficult someone is having digesting certain foods, Edgar Casey also recommended some modifications to the alkaline diet for some people. So some people will require more cooked foods. So if you cook your greens or you cook some of those cruciferous veggies like broccoli or cauliflower that are more difficult to digest, or you pick the cruciferous veggies like bok choy that are a little bit easier to digest. But you can see how you respond to foods, and it will depend on what's going on in your life, the particular day, the situation. So you may be able to handle certain amounts, and you might be able to handle higher amounts if you cook your foods versus eating all of them raw. Now, and sprouting certain foods like beans will also help them be easier to digest. But in an alkaline diet, the beans are supposed to be in the 20% category. And if you haven't watched the Edgar Casey's alkaline diet episode, then definitely take a look at that, and I go through that in much more detail. Other foods that have been found to be helpful for the gut barrier are cinnamon, red raspberries, blueberries, yogurt, and other probiotic foods, modified depending on your needs because some people don't do well with dairy products. Then we go into the again other probiotic or foods, which it could be like kimchi or krauts. These are anti-inflammatory and can help maintain the mucosal barrier, or you could consider adding those as a supplement. But I really like to get probiotic through the food more than as a supplement. I feel like it's actually even more beneficial if we incorporate it into our diet. Getting appropriate amounts of fiber too. So this is going to be in your fruits and veggies, and this is going to be in your more 80% alkaline foods, which are more fruits and veggies. So insoluble fiber is broken down by the gut bacteria into short chain fatty acids, and that produces again more than 10% of your total calories. So your total energy that you absorb is through this fiber. And fiber is needed for the cells of your colon to maintain that source of energy. So for your colon to actually function optimally. Short chain fatty acids are also found in foods like flax, chia, hemp, and walnuts. So these are superfoods, which is why I love to throw chia on top of everything or mix it in any foods, hemp, ground flax, and because you will be giving your body and your gut a source of these short chain fatty acids. Now, insoluble fiber is going to be in those more fibrous portions of your fruits and veggies. So the peels, that's why you're supposed to eat foods whole, because you'll get the insoluble fiber as well as the soluble fiber. Both are beneficial. Both can help with the transit of your bowel movements, and both can help with your blood sugar balance. And it is the insoluble fiber that your bacteria ferment to produce the small chain fatty acids, which is 10% of that energy for the colon, because it's 10% or more of the total absorbed calories. That's huge. So consider all of those things. We also have polyphenols, which is this category of compounds found in many foods. It creates some of the polyphenols are the flavonoids, which are responsible for the pigments in fruits and vegetables, that dark color of red cabbage, or the dark color of Concord grapes, which is another reason why you should have Concord grape juice. It helps with your metabolism. It helps how your cells, your gut cells, respond to carbohydrates and digest the food. And here's just understanding even more. It's just that insoluble fiber from the skin of it, but then also the antioxidants from the polyphenols and the flavonoids. Other flavonoids include quercetin and anthocyanins, berberine, or these are other polyphenols, which are all have antioxidant properties. So quercetin, anthocyanins, berberine, resveratrol, curcumin. So you might have heard of all of those things before, or some of them might be familiar. And the point is to eat a rainbow of foods so you have access to these polyphenols. Your gut has access to these. It nourishes your gut barrier, helps maintain the gut function. If you would like to take certain vitamins or supplements or minerals, then vitamins A and D are known to support the mucosal barrier, including the integrity of the epithelial cells, the immune function, and the gut microbiota. So vitamin A can be found in and your orange colored foods like carrots and sweet potato. It's an antioxidant that is fat soluble. And vitamin D, is the sunshine vitamin. So now that we're moving into colder weather, if you are not getting as much skin exposure to sunlight, then you might consider taking some vitamin D during the cold weather months. And that will vary depending on where you live and how much time you spend outside. Another really big supplement for leaky gut is glutamine. So, studies suggest that adding glutamine improves fibrosis and intestinal inflammation. It improves the intestinal barrier and gut flora, and it can act synergistically with beneficial gut microbiota, especially the lactobacillus species. So, if you are eating probiotic foods and you're getting glutamine, and you can take it as a supplement, then especially if you have leaky gut, you might need those supplements amounts of them. Then this can really improve leaky gut. And leaky gut is going to contribute to rashes and other psoriasis, eczema, other things that I haven't even mentioned yet. So we know, again, a quick review: leaky gut contributes to any gut issues, but also contributes to diabetes, cardiovascular issues, uh, liver issues, rashes, skin issues. So the list goes on and on. Herbs that might be helpful for improving that gut barrier include hibiscus, which makes a delicious tea, and marshmallow, which has these mucilage properties and decreases inflammation and wound healing. Similar to marshmallow, there is slippery elm, which is an Edgar Cayce remedy. It also has that mucilage properties. Mucilage it helps to add like a coating to help soothe an inflamed area. So you put a little pinch of that into water and you can drink it up. Edgar Cayce often recommended that for most of the water. If somebody had a lot of gut inflammation, he'd say to put some slippery elm into all the water that was taken in, because it has those wound healing properties and is really great for the gut. There's also ginger, which is another superfood, helps to decrease inflammation, also has antibacterial properties. Peppermint, which can calm nausea and vomiting. Plantain, another wound healing herb. And there's others, including chamomile, calendula, that I've mentioned before. Also, another soothing gut herb. Chamomile is amazing. It's also a nervine. And then another Edgar Cayce herb, which is safflower or yellow saffron. It's not actually saffron. It's American saffron, which is actually safflower. And it's so interesting because every now and then I'll start to look into the literature and see if there's anything come out about some of these Cayce remedies that we didn't know about before. And I did find some studies that showed that safflower can help repair intestinal barrier function in acute ulcerative colitis. So it's amazing that Edgar Cayce was talking about this over half a century ago. And now we are starting to get studies implicating in the importance of some of these herbs and remedies. So that safflower can be taken as a tea and taken every day to help support the gut. There's also many mushrooms that can be helpful for the gut barrier, and this includes most of the medicinal mushrooms: chaga, turkey tail, maitake, shiitake, lion's mane, and you can take those in various forms. Mushrooms have gotten a lot more attention nowadays, and for good reason. Which one you might choose, it will depend on the other factors of what you might need them for. Turkey tail is one of my favorites because energetically, it just is so uplifting and it feels like angelic in that kind of inspiring quality. It's helpful for the immune system. It's helpful for the nervous system. It's helpful for the gut. So you have your pick in terms of the medicinal mushrooms, but You cannot forget to address other systems of the body. So don't forget the gut doesn't work in isolation. It is involved with the whole of your being, really. So sometimes your adrenals might need some extra support, especially if you've been really stressed out. Same goes with your nervous system. If you've been really stressed, your nervous system is going to might be kind of wired or shot, and that nervous system communication from the brain to the gut and gut back to the brain is can start to have some cross wiring, or the signals are getting faulty and getting into these loops where maybe you're thinking something, and overthinking will contribute to gut dysbiosis, and leaky gut. So the energetics of everything of our experience are really important, and this gets us to the mind body connection. So reflecting on, how are you digesting life? And that is such a big question at any moment. How are we digesting life? Some parts are easier to digest than others, for sure. But there are those hidden parts that maybe that we don't want to digest, or we don't really want to look at. So it's looking at the obvious, the things that are maybe difficult, the challenges you're going through, but there might be subconscious things, maybe things from the past, maybe things from your childhood that haven't been completely digested. That's not a good or bad thing. That is just an experience. It's just part of your story, part of your experience. And so your gut is calling to you when you have these issues, any issues with the gut, is calling to you to ask your consciousness, your awareness to be placed on those areas, to tend to it so that you may be able to process things in your life better. You and your body are on the same team. So sometimes the signals can get mixed. That's why it's important to be able to hear the messages from our body. Once we understand them, we reestablish the integrity, including that gut integrity, and we're no longer getting mixed messages. So, ignoring messages from our body will only amp up its signals, and your body will continue to communicate via symptoms and physical sensations. So, take the time to quiet, to listen, and if you would like an assistance with that, of course, come see me. But if you want an assistance, you can use the topical castor oil. So, using castor oil as a pack over your whole abdomen can help you with that. The vibration of castor oil helps to break up stuckness, as an oil tends to do, as a lubricant tends to do. So, it helps to break up stuckness like you would. If you had a wheel that was stuck and you would oil it, and then you can get the gears turning again. So we can do that with the gears in our life, and metaphorically with our gut. We can use the vibration of castor oil to help bring our awareness to the areas in the gut that are needing attention. It will help to break up the stuckness on the physical, the mental, emotional layers, so that they can be bubble up to our consciousness, and we can better embrace them and hug them in, so that we can tend to all parts of ourself. And that is a multidimensional approach to leaky gut. And I feel like I could stay here and talk for 12 more hours easily on just this topic alone to flush out even more details. But we have the time we have right now, and I hope that that is somehow helpful for you. If you feel that this is helpful for anyone else in your life, a loved one, a friend, a colleague, then please share this video with them. Like, subscribe, place your questions in the comments. Let me know where you are from and what else you would like to know about, and I'll get to them as I can. If you would like to connect with me in other ways, you can on Instagram at All Worlds Health, on Facebook, All Worlds Health and Pediatrics, on my website, allworldshealth.com. And you can sign up for my e-love letters. I send them out once a week on Wednesdays. And that, again, that's allworldshealth.com. And one last announcement, we have another class for School of Stillness where everyone is a healer. My dear friend, Maxine Taylor, who has over 50 years of experience with astrology, will help us get to know ourselves through the stars. And so she will show us how to read our own astrology charts. And that might sound like really out there. And what does that have to do with health? But It is more about understanding all parts of your being, understanding your constitution. And when you get to read it on your own without someone else telling you who you are, it is so much more empowering because it is you rediscovering yourself. And that is always helpful and healing. So come join us. It's December 14th. You can sign up on my website, allworldshealth.com, through the events. And it is from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. with a lunch break. We have both in person and virtual options, and we'll limit the numbers of people that can sign up for the class just to make sure we have time for feedback and questions. So this is a gift that keeps on giving, and I hope that you'll get to join us. If you have any questions on that, then please be sure to contact us. You can always send an email through the contact page on the website. So lots of love to all of you. I hope that you believe in you because I believe in you too. Have a beautiful rest of your week, and we'll see you next time in another episode of the Multidimensional MD. Take care. Bye.